Once again, we're in the interface.dwg file and diving deeper into the AutoCAD interface. Now, we're going to take a look now at the status bar bottom right in a bit more depth. Now, in the last video, when we were talking about dynamic input, we did obviously dabble in the status bar a little bit. Now, what I want you to do is utilize that status bar all the time to your advantage when you're working in AutoCAD. One of the simple things you need to remember is that anything that is blue on the status bar is on. So any of these blue icons here, they're letting you know that those tools, those drafting settings are on. So we know that dynamic input's on because we did that in the last video. You'll also notice that your polar tracking is on. You'll also notice that your object snap tracking is on, auto snap as it's called. You'll also notice here that your object snaps are on as well. And there's some other bits and pieces here. You'll notice that your annotation objects are always on, and there's other tools available. Look at workspace, for example. We touched on that earlier. There's our workspaces that we worked with earlier. So there's a lot of functionality there on the status bar. Now, one of the things that you have to use when you're drafting in AutoCAD to draft accurately is your object snaps. So you want your object snaps on. So see the object snap icon? That should be blue. Click on the little arrow next to it, and that allows you to switch on object snaps. Now, at the moment, there are 4 object snaps switched on: endpoint, center, intersection, and extension. They are always on by default when you start AutoCAD up. They are always on by default when you install AutoCAD and use it for the first time. There's one, though, that I wish would always be on as well, and that is midpoint. So if you select that, click on it, can you see there? It switches on the midpoint object snap as well. So those 5 ticked object snaps are now your running object snaps that will always appear when you're drafting in AutoCAD. Click once in the drawing area and that menu will disappear. Now, one of the benefits you've got with the status bar is you can right click over any of the icons to get into the drafting settings dialog box. Hover over the polar tracking, this little circle with what looks like a slice of pie cut out of it. That allows you to manage your default polar tracking angles when you're tracking to an angle to draft something accurately. Right click over the polar tracking icon and you'll see there that I can go and select default angle values, 90, 45, etc. If I go down to tracking settings though and click on it, what you'll see there is it takes me to the drafting settings dialog box, but in the polar tracking tab. So I can set all of my polar tracking settings, click on OK, job done. Now, what I'd like you to do with your status bar when you come away from this particular video is just right click on some of those settings and see what comes up in the drafting settings dialog box. I don't want you to change anything too drastically because that could dramatically affect your workflow in AutoCAD, but have a look at how some of those things work. So, for example, your object snaps, if you right click there and go to object snap settings, there is an object snap tab in the drafting settings dialog box. Have a look, have a read, check out what those tools do on your status bar in AutoCAD. I'll click on cancel now and we're back in the drawing, ready to start drafting if we need to.